Welcome audience to the end of year video, the one where we get to sit back, pour the fattest bucket of red wine and laugh at the utter disaster that has been entertainment in 2023. Because, well, what else can we do now? It has been a year of pure unadulterated cringe, from pronoun-pleasing aliens to disregarding documented history because Grandma said so. Indeed, the modern age has well and truly come, and entertainment is now the chosen vehicle of the message. And it's glorious because narratives like, always screw your friends over and you'll get rewarded for it, is exactly what the audience wanted to see. The same as being a complete and utter c***, then abusing elders. And of course, who could forget, steal from people who have worked harder than you. 2023, just like 2022, was yet another year loaded with the buckets of strong females of power that for some reason never needed a montage to justify how they obtained their skills. Yes, the classic struggles of old, where a woman must push herself to the limits of survival and then use the resulting growth fuck to overcome adversity, is no more. Because expecting a woman not to be the best at everything immediately without reason is literally hate speech. Kind of getting a little boring now, right? I mean, when we talk about the classics of cinema, surprisingly, no one is talking about the Rey trilogy. No one mentions Captain Marvel. No one says, oh, it was definitely Indiana Jones 5. You know, the one where they had the aging male protagonist, who is now a grumpy old man, and it takes a young female of power to bring back the spirit of Christmas. Oh no, because we talk about the Shawshank Redemption, Alien, Terminator, Good Will Hunting. And you know what? Fuck it. Even a nutty professor had its moments. But maybe, just maybe, it was actually the audience who are wrong this entire time, and all those naysaying bigots are actually a bunch of dirty homo-racistophobes for not liking the utter diarrhea being splooshed out the gaping ass crack of diversity, equity and inclusion in Hollywood. It's literally the parody Skinner meme playing out in real life. You know, we just have to look at Oppenheimer to see an example of exclusionary bigotry in the modern age and how it can perform at the box office. A competently written film not about cramming the modern day narratives into historical pieces, but instead about real life events where historical figures are actually well respected. And somehow, that netted in almost $1 billion at the box office. Or maybe we have The Barbie Lady, a film that tried to ejaculate the modern audience narrative into the faces of the audience, but instead proved the point that living in a patriarchy is actually pretty bloody cool. Two films that prove cinema is not an empty waste lamppost scandemic. Rather, it is the creative bankruptcy of Hollywood that is the reason Disney is now on life support. But the story of 2023 does not end there, because this glorious year also saw one of the biggest, if not the biggest, consumer backlash in history. Yes, that's right audience, 2023 will always be the year when Bud Light told their loyal customers to go fuck off and then crumpled to the ground crying like the modern age female athlete would when getting flicked in the balls. And wasn't it glorious? Because all those companies out there who take political sides in exchange for ESG investments put those brakes on just for a moment. Like Xbox did, who were trying to virtue their signal on the internet until realizing that Diablo was probably a better selling point. As it turned out, the public are kind of getting a little sick of being lectured to by a bunch of brands whose sole job it is to sell you products. But that's not all, as 2023 also is the year where the LGTVs took that step a little too far by selling tuck-friendly clothing to children. Yes, Noncing Target, another brand whose purpose it is to sell you things, also turned out to want to groom children with ideology that could see them do irreparable harm to themselves. And when Gays Against Groomers, a political group who are sick of their sexuality being co-opted by a bunch of nonsense, came out to condemn Target for it, they got labelled as anti-LGBTV far-right extremists. The same organisation who got banned from social media for, let me check my notes, trying to protect children from nonsense again. Kind of a weird timeline we live in when the lesbians and gay people are being forced out of their own movement because of a bunch of degenerate nonsense creeps. Bud Light, to their credit, learned their lesson and they learned that good. So I've been throwing the kitchen sink at all of the manly sports with advertisements, hoping to win back the customers they lost with no dirty women in sight. Whereas Noncing Target, well, although removing the tuck-friendly clothing from the store due to severe backlash, decided Santa is now black and in a wheelchair, Oh, and all the nutcrackers are gay too. What a weird way to make money. So let's get to the Entertainment Awards for 2023, presented to you by none other than LRCW. And what a sad little year it has been, especially for the superhero genre. It was all the rage when I was younger. We had the OG Spider-Man, Iron Man, Batman, Captain America Man, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Pretty much the golden era, and not a single one-sided political narrative in sight, just pure freaking entertainment, which was accessible for everyone. But then came the fucking sad acts to ruin it for everybody. So for the opener tonight, we have the award for the most forgettable superhero movie of 2023. A question where I had to actually Google what superhero films were released this year because I actually forgot. And the nominees are Shazam! Fury of the Gods, a film about a bunch of superheroes who suddenly have bad guys show up and then they defeat them and the film is finished, like every other superhero film these days. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, a film about a man who can be an ant who also fights Mr. Potato Head while being lectured to by a very stunning and brave teenage engineer of power. The Flash, a film about a bloke who could run very, very fast, and the lead actor is now under serious investigation for allegedly being a massive fucking nonce. The Marvels, basically a film about a bunch of women who can't figure out what dress they want to wear for the night, so they write a film about it. And finally, Blue Beetle, a film about a bunch of Mexicans where one of them wears a suit hiding his identity and breaks into loads of places that he's not meant to be in. Basically, a documentary. And our winner is Blue Beetle, which, let's face it, was kind of a given when 5 minutes into the runtime, you're already thinking, how bloody high can that wall go? So let's move on to the second award of the night, the most disappointing show of 2023. It's a sad place in entertainment when nothing slaps anymore. I can remember as a young bigot costing my mother almost 100 British shillings on the monthly NTL bill because I got so addicted to Lost, I kept paying to watch the episodes on the TV box. And then came Game of Thrones, where I would literally murder anyone who spoke during an episode. The dialogue was more important than the action. However, these days, there's not a bucket big enough to capture all the vomiting disgust I have for the shows that try and emulate what they did, particularly this year. So our nominations are Secret Invasion, a Marvel show where the mother trucker is now a sad old mother trucker, which is surprising just like every other male character these days, who also needs to stop a bunch of terrorists, but doesn't, and then sits in his cuck shed for the rest of the show until Jada Pinkett Smith cheats on Will Smith again. The Witcher Season 3, a show about strong women of power who do things and none of them are actually called The Witcher, with special guest appearances by whoever the fuck that is. Literally, no one knows because he's barely in a show which is called The Witcher. The Mandalorian Season 3, a show about space wizards featuring Lizzo and Jack Black. Always a hoot, shame about those ratings, Disney, you fucking suck. Ahsoka, the Dave Filoni religious experience about an orange lady and Elliot Page traveling space together, while the latter does everything possible to selfishly fuck everybody else over while learning absolutely zero lessons by the end of the season. The Doctor Who 60th anniversary special, the one where the BBC pulled no punches by getting Russell T Davies and David Tennant back, just so they can cram as much message in there as possible, and they did all of that without a single evil wheelchair user in sight. And well audience, is it a surprise to learn that Doctor Who takes the crown for the most disappointing show of 2023? Well actually, no, because come on guys, we live in a modern age, everything's a disappointment. So let's move on and have some positivity, as so far it has all just been black pills. For our next award, we have the best worst show of 2023, because sometimes the cringe is so overwhelming is actually pretty good. And the nominees are Velma, the show that tried to bring Scooby-Doo back into the modern age for absolutely no reason, and would you believe it, it didn't work out for them. Yes, that's right, the spectacular diversity of small willy white man, Asian Daphne, Afro Shaggy and Indian Velma didn't tickle the inclusion loins of the modern audience. I guess maybe they shouldn't have done it at all then. Secret Invasion, the show that ended with a super strong, stunning female woman of power and a CGI arm that killed a generation with cringe AIDS. Ahsoka, the 8-episode teabagging experience, where each episode got stupider and stupider, and all those Disney shills out there gobbled it up like it was the discard bucket at a sperm bank. Robin Hood, a show about dirty, dirty criminal scumbags stealing from people who actually earned their wealth through hard work. And for some reason, they thought they were in the right the entire time. Get the fuck out of here. And finally, we come to Cleopatra, the cuckmaster Jada Pinkett Smith's reimagining of the world-famous Greek lady of Power. Criminally underrated as a comedy, but not so much a historical drama piece. And the winner is, well, who would have guessed? It's Robin Hood with a wire. Quite possibly the best thing to come out of Canada since Rush. And all our maple friends over in America's Hat needed that boost this year because, well, enough said. And that leads us nicely to our next award. Which studio ruins their own shows and films with the message the worst? Because just writing something that doesn't push real-world one-sided issues, that has all the nuances removed, is somehow too much to ask for. And our nominees are Disney, the guys who lost over $1 billion in film revenue just this year and millions of streaming subscribers, all because they can't help but put a chick in it and make a layman gay. And they have learned fucking nothing because they're gonna do it all over again in 2024. Amazon, the utter imbeciles who thought they can do the Lord of the Rings and failed miserably at it. Even worselier, they also have the rights to the Wheel of Time, a completed book series with a very, very in-depth magic system and character backstory that they completely fucking trashed. Netflix, who to be fair, do platform some edgy content. However, it doesn't make up for the complete dysentery of shows that they chunder out. Who would have thought giving a bunch of hack writing activists millions of dollars would force their biggest star to leave? Yes, the company that cannot stop fudge packing intersectionality into everything they do. They even had a show called The Dick, which was a story about how archaeologists found the famous Anglo-Saxon Sutton Hoo burial mound in Suffolk that was starring Voldemort, which was actually very, very good and I enjoyed it very much. But suddenly, a show about digging up ancient ships and swords became a show about some made-up gay storyline in a show about archaeology. What the fuck is wrong with these people? And finally, we have the noncing BBC. If it's not EastEnders, it's Countryfile, but even more, Doctor Who. The BBC cannot help themselves injecting the message everywhere, and even in the local news reports where they can't stop telling us what they truly think of the audience. And the winner is Disney by a country freaking mile. It must be really hard having a worldwide fan base and a legacy of the most influential animated films ever made and then completely fucking it up with the modern age. Kind of sad too, but I'm sure if you put a generator on Walt Disney's corpse, we can harness that power and solve all of the energy crisis. And talking of Disney, destroying brands has been the story of 2023, and pretty much the tale of the 2020s. Some would suggest it is the modern audience who are doing it to them. However, it goes a little deeper. ESG deeper, to be precise. The investment score index that rates you on how well you pronounce your pronouns and regurgitate the climate lines without having any understanding of how a climate system actually works. And while virtue signaling on social media are putting up anti-self-deletion nets in slave labour factories and forcing black children to dig up minerals in poor countries. It's a funny time to be alive! So for our next award, we'll be awarding a very special ESG trophy to the one who has destroyed their brand the worst, and the nominations are Russell T Davies, the Doctor Who man who made a story about an alien who travels time and space into a male-presenting hate campaign via a trans narrative for literally no reason. Kathleen Kennedy, the put a chick in it and make a layman gay Lucasfilm lady. Kevin Feige, the Marvel man who just copy and paste entire movie scripts and then makes them a bit more diverse and loses a shit ton of money. And finally, Alyssa Heiner's the absolute barrel that destroyed Bud Light and even told their own customers that she hates them. Sure, the company is beginning to recover slightly now, but there is no coming back from it. They will never regain their previous customer base. And the winner is Russell T fucking Davies, the man who said wheelchair users can't be evil and that no straight men can be casted to play a gay man in a show or a film, while at the same time making David Tennant's Doctor gay. Maybe someone should tell his wife about that before she gets Philip Schofield. Moving on, we have now come to the penultimate award, the least sufferable woman of power. So it was asked if the dear audience were to go to the world's best amusement park and they had to take one of the following with them, who would they take? And the nominees are Sabine, a woman of power who screwed everyone over for her own selfish needs and by the end of the show learned absolutely nothing while at the same time being rewarded for it. Helena, an obnoxious dildo who punches an aging cinematic legend in the face and some idiot thought the audience would like to see that. Captain Marvel, the lady who does all her own stunts and thinks she's Tom Cruise while pissing off everybody on set. Amy Schumer, a comedian who's about as funny as a reversing dumpster truck full of dead puppies. And the winner is... well, actually, none of them. You see, audience, I have pulled a classic Bob Ross sneaky one on all of you because the actual award goes to a sentient crowbar that softly beats you to death over the course of the day, at a whopping 70%. But I'm not going to leave this one alone just yet, because I actually took a bit of a personal issue with some of the answers given to this question. Which one of you answered Helena or Amy Schumer? Seriously, which one of you did it? It's not big. You're not funny, they were clearly the wrong freaking answers. So please explain yourself in the comments so we can have an argument on the internet about it. Also, my answer would be Captain Marvel. Don't know why, but something is telling me I wouldn't be having the worst time if I was stuck on the broken down teacups with her. And so here we are, audience, at the final question, and the one that leaves us with a bit of a good note. If there was a season 2 of the following shows, which one would you love to hate watch the most? And the nominees are... The Rings of Power, the most cringe-inducing billion-dollar fuck-up Amazon ever laid their dirty ESG claws on. She-Hulk, the lawyer lady who doesn't even know how to lawyer and instead just twerks. Yes, that's 100 years of girl power right there, and I'm so glad that they get to vote. Ahsoka, because everybody needs a cure for insomnia. Velma, the show that within her very opening scenes wins that white people exist because racism is totally okay these days. The Witcher Blood Origins, a show so over the top of the message that it was actually the best comedy I have ever witnessed. Not even joking, it was bloody hilarious. And the winner is... well, no surprise here, audience, The Rings of Power. And I kind of agree, that shit was so bad, it was worth actually watching. Give me the meat and give it to me raw. Well, that concludes the 2023 awards, and the crown for the biggest part of modern audience cringe goes to Russell T Davies. What a fucking letdown that guy truly is. But at least there is hope on the horizon, audience. We have Dune 2 coming soon, where the first was probably the best film I've seen in the 2020s. We also have Deadpool 3, although it's a little bit shaky, it is Disney after all. But there is one that may indeed blow the dick right off the modern female. Twisters, the sequel to Twister that starred Helen Hunt. Kind of thought that they didn't need a follow-up, but Universal has plugged $200 million into it, so they're being pretty bloody serious. And for streaming shows, we have, not that, and definitely not that either. Maybe it's Amazon's Fallout. I mean, possibly, they have already made the protagonist a female because that's what they've done through everything for the last 5 fucking years. But post-apocalyptic America probably wouldn't give a flying fuck about gender inclusivity or diversity, so it might actually be good. Who knows? But before we go back to the turkey and wine, I would just like to say a massive thank you to all of your support this year. It truly is appreciated. I also would like to extend the warm hand of thank you to all of the crying shills who had a soy re-rage meltdown in the comments section after I mocked one of their precious shows. Because all you've done is boosted me in the algorithm. But I do refuse to say thank you to the utter melt who called me an Australian edgelord. Have I not made it clear yet that I am a proud British man? I mean, I talk about beans on toast all the bloody time. I mean, do I need to misgender someone on the internet and then get arrested for it to prove that I live in the UK? Big shout out to my Patreon boys and guys. Stephen P, Taylor J, Bill Blake, Andy Ward, ConspiracyQuery.net, the wonderful Mr. Wolf, Hetzer J, and of course, the Mighty Pen.
Subscribe button.